If you'd like to learn how to make a basic bustier pattern like this one here and this one and this one, then this video is for you. You want a bustier that sits well under your bust, and you want a bustier that sits well under your bust and holds you well at the center back. So this particular video is for you. So today we're going to be making this pattern from this book, Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman. So derived from the chapter 11, Madame Blouses. So we have off-shoulder Madame Blouses, but we're making a bustier pattern, not the off-shoulder Madame Blouse. So I'm going to add the link to the Madame Blouse video in this book. Then I'm also going to be using my curves to make the pattern, and I'll need my ruler to make the pattern. I'm going to be using a permanent marker. Since you're just a beginner, I would recommend that you do not use a permanent marker. Use your pencil and your eraser instead. And of course, I'm going to be needing my measuring tape for this pattern. So first things first, we are going to go ahead to mark out our lines. So you're going to take your basic bodice measurement. I also have a measurement video on the channel, so you can just go ahead and watch it. Okay, so I'm going to mark my neckline. So I'm going to call here the zero line, which is the neckline. So 1 inch below is the shoulder line. Then the next thing is 6 inches, which is the chest line. Then the armhole line, I'm working with high waist position divided by 2. So I have a high waist of I have a high waist of 17. So if I divide it by 2, I have 8.5. So that's what I'm working with. I'm not working with round bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 for now. So you can still go ahead to work with that if you're okay with that. So the bust position is 10.5. This is 8.5. And then the under bust position. For the under bust position, we have 14.5. Then the high waist position, we have 17. And then for the full length and hemline, we'll just have 24 and then 24.5. Okay, so I have 17 here. So I've marked it at the edge of the pattern paper, so I'm going to go ahead to mark it in the middle, and then I'll mark it at the other edges. My name is Ebere Igwe Obona, creative director of Enugu's Best Fashion Academy, Eric's Academy of Fashion. So if you're new to this channel, do well to hit on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I post new videos on this channel. If you'd like to get a copy of my book, Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman, you can click on the link to order on Amazon if you're not in Nigeria, or you can contact us on 070-3211-3474 to place an order for the book, and we can deliver to you anywhere you are in Nigeria. Okay, so here we are. We're done marking out the lines. We're done marking out our points. So I like to mark out all of my points first. Then I'll just go ahead to connect them with my metal rule. So make sure you take your measurements very well. I'm also going to link the video on how to take accurate body measurements in this video. So now we're done with our lines. We're going to go ahead to start from the front pattern. I'm going to mark a neck width of 3 inches. It's not fixed, it depends on how wide you want your neck to be. If you want a canoe neckline, you can use something deeper. Okay, so I'm going to make the depth 4 inches. There is no hard and fast rule about the marking. It just has to do with what you're working with. So if you'd like it to be thicker, bigger, deeper, anyhow you want it, you can just go ahead to modify your neckline and your neck depth to give you what you want exactly. So the next thing we're going to do is to mark the shoulder measurement. I have a shoulder of 14, so we're going to mark shoulder divided by 2, and that's giving us 7.5. So we're starting from the center line. So this is our center front line, center front. Okay, so we start from the center front line to mark it. So when we get to our chest line, we do things a little bit differently. When we get to our chest line, we go in by half an inch. So instead of marking 7 on the chest line, we'll mark 6.5. Then we go in and mark 6.5 again. The next thing we're going to do is to mark the round bust measurement. So now that we're done marking them, we're going to connect them with a metal roll and then finish them up with our French curve. Okay, so you can use your French curve, or if you're already used to freehand, you can just go ahead and use your freehand You don't necessarily have to pressure yourself about buying all of these curves if you're very good with your freehand. So personally, I'm very good with my freehand. So most times I don't really get to use curves. I use my freehand. So this now is the neckline curve, and this is supposed to be the armhole curve, but in most cases I can just go ahead and curve it this way. And now I have a very neat curve on my armhole. Then we just go ahead to, on the bust position, we go ahead to mark the round bust divided by 4. So round bust divided by 4. So here is round bust divided by 4. Then you ignore the under bust position, you ignore the high waist position, and next thing that you're going to do is to mark your round bust divided by 4. You're going to mark your round bust divided by 4, that's 8.5, and add an extra 3 inches to it. Okay, so guys, there was a mistake on my pattern and I'm going to correct it right away. My front pattern and my back pattern were not supposed to be of the same length using this particular method. Okay, so they're not supposed to be of the same length, so I'm going to I'm going to effect the changes. So now we're done with this one. We're done with the front as it is now. We're going to mark the nipple to nipple measurement, and that's where we're going to mark our bust position. Okay, so we're going to mark the nipple to nipple. So the nipple to nipple is 7 inches, so you're going to do 7 inches divided by 2. You just go ahead to mark it across and then mark a straight line all the way up and all the way down. So for now, we're not sharing any dots here. So we're going to, from the bust position, we're going to come down by, from the bust position, we're going to come down by 2 inches. 2 inches is actually the standard that we work with for this particular size. So the 2 inches is the difference between the high waist position in front and the high waist position at the back. So the back high waist is giving us 15 inches. The front high waist is giving us 17 inches. So when you see someone who is bustier, the difference is going to be more. So for some persons, you have a difference of up to 3.5 inches, some persons 3 inches, some persons 2.5 inches, and that's basically it. So this right here is the bust dart, and we're done with the front pattern. So right now we're just going to go ahead to draft the back pattern. So like I told you, I'm going to make alterations to the back pattern from the high waist up to the full length. So the high waist is going to be 2 inches above the normal high waist of the front, and then the full length is going to be 2 inches shorter than that of the front also. Okay, so I'm going to make the alterations and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so I mentioned reducing the high waist of the back, making it to be 15 as against the original 17. So we take it off by 2 inches and cancel out this other one, so we're not using this one. Okay, so that means that for the full length is also going to be shortened also by 2 inches. All right, so just go up by 2 inches and then go ahead to do the connections. Right. Okay, so this is a new high waistline for the back. Every other thing remains the same. So I'm going to go ahead to mark out the zip allowance. I'm going to leave some space actually. I'm going to leave about 3 inches. I don't need this entire 3. I don't need this entire 3 inches, but I'm going to mark out the 3 inches. I want to make an illustration and I want you to see and understand the illustration properly. That's why I'm making out this much gap. Okay, so this line I'm drafting, this 3 inches line I'm drafting like this now. This line will now have to be the center back line. I'm not adding the zip allowance line immediately. So we're just going to go ahead to mark the same neck width that we used at the in front, also at the back. So we'll have 3 inches, and then the neck depth, whatever it is you want to do. Assuming I want to use a neck depth of 7 inches, I'm going to go ahead to mark it out. Let's say we have it here, and then we just go ahead to connect it. So go ahead to connect it. And next thing, we have the shoulder measurement. So we have shoulder divided by 2, that's 14, that's 7 divided by 2. Sorry, that's 14, that's 7. So we still come to the chest line and still mark the same 7. Come to the armhole line and still mark the same 7. Then still on the armhole line, we'll mark the round bust divided by 4. On the bust position, we'll mark round bust divided by 4. Then on the full length line, the new full length line, we're going to mark round bust divided by 4 plus 3 inches. So I hope that clicks. So basically the same thing we did in front. Only thing is that the high waist position is smaller at the back than in front, because obviously the front has a bust but the back doesn't have a bust, so that makes the high waist position to be shorter at the back than in the front. Okay, so now we'll connect the shoulder line. Some persons use a shoulder slant of 1.5 inches. If you're not comfortable using a shoulder slant of 1 inch, please go ahead and use a shoulder slant of 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches because sometimes 1 inch doesn't sit very well. So yes, you can alter it and go ahead to use 1.5 inches. Alright. Okay, so now that we're done connecting it, we're going to use our armhole curve to curve this place and connect it and just make it sit very well. Just make it out to be very smooth. And now that we're done, we're going to go ahead to mark the armhole position for the dart position for the back. So the dart position for the back, we use a standard measurement of front dart position, which is 3.5 inches plus an extra 0.75 inches. I'll explain that to you later. That's 4.25. We are doing that because of the zip shaping, because once we do a zip shaping, it's going to shift the dart position inwards further, and you wouldn't want the back dart position to be too slim or too close together. So that's why we'll go ahead to do that. So now that we've gotten to this point, I'm going to go ahead to do the back shaping. We call it the zip shaping, but I'm going to do it into the pattern itself, and I'm going to do it into the pattern itself. So I'm going to use a different color of marker. I'm going to use a different color of marker so that the colors don't confuse us. So now this is the center back line. Okay, so from the center back line now, this is our high waist line, this is our under bust line, and this is the bust line, and this is the armhole line. So from the high waist line, we're going in by 0.75. You know, I told you that the zip shaping pushes the dart position away, so that's why we had to add 1.75, so that when it pushes it, it will not become too close to the center back. I hope you actually understand this part. So the high waist, the under bust, and the bust position, these are the 3 cardinal points where we do our zip shaping. Okay, so we'll go ahead to connect them together. This is the Eric's method. There are so many different methods out there, but this is what works for us, and this is what we use. We use 3 cardinal points for our zip shaping, and we don't connect to the neck depth. We connect straight to the neckline. Okay. So now you can see that this is center back. We have taken this in because your back is not straight and you want your zipper to sit very well. Now after we're done doing this, we're going to go ahead to start doing what we call zip shaping. So for us to do our zip shaping, this is what we're going to do. The first step is to divide our round high waist measurement by 2. So if I have a round high waist of 30, we divide it by 2 to give us 15 inches. That's the first step in high waist shaping, and this is the Eric's method. It's clearly explained in the Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman. So we're going to start from the center front line. Let us call this point A, and then call the end of the center front line B. So when we do this, we're going to measure it. From A to B, we'll have 10 inches. You hold your tape and continue. We are looking for 15, and we're not going to stop until we get 15. And once we get 15, every other thing from 15 to the center back, not to the point where you stopped your zip shape in place, every other thing from 15 to the center back exactly is excess. Okay, so here we have this. So from here to here, so we'll have 12 centimeters excess. So we're measuring our excess in centimeters. We use the both sides of the tape. We use the centimeter part and we use the inches part. Now there is a dart range. If someone has a bust of less than 32, we use 2 cm to 2.5 cm left and right for the under bust and the high waist dart. So if someone has 32 to 34, we are going to work with 2.5 cm to 3 cm, depending on how big the person's bust is. If the person has 34 to 36, we're going to work with 3 cm to 3.5 cm. If someone has 36 to 38, we're going to work with 3.5 cm to 4 cm. If someone has 38 and above, the person is going to work with 4 cm and above. Now depending on how big the person's bust is. So now we're working with someone who has a bust of 34 and is on lower range, so we're going to work with 3 cm. We're supposed to work with 3 cm left and right. That's a total of 6 centimeters, but we can now decide how we are going to share the 6 centimeters. In my own case, I like to give a little part to the center and then a bigger part to the side. All right, so now we have an excess of 12 centimeters. So for the front dart, we're going to share 2 cm in front, and that's towards the center, and then we're going to go ahead to do 4 cm on the other side. So this is 4 and this is 2, so that gives us a total of 6 centimeters. So now that we've done this, remember we added an extra 3 to the full length of the blouse. So we're going to drag our darts all the way down because we want to have a seamless effect. We don't want it to have like a flare effect. If the person is pregnant and you want it to have like a flare effect, like a pointy kind of effect, have a fuller effect, you just go ahead and make the dart have a V shape. But in this case, we don't want a V shape, we want it to be seamless. So that's why we're going to go ahead to make it a straight line. So now we're going to go ahead also to connect it to the under bust. So you had an excess of 12 centimeters and now you have shared 6. You're left with 6 centimeters. So for the back, we like to use a dart of 2 centimeters on the left and 2 centimeters on the right, so that we can also have a well seamed back. So 2 centimeters left, 2 centimeters right, and then we take it down to the full length. This is like our hemline. The hemline stops ½ inch below the full length line. So 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 2, 2, then we now take it all the way to the armhole line. So if you're new to my channel, do well to click on the subscribe button, share this video so that others too can learn, and you can follow us on Instagram at Eric's Fashion. So now we're done darting the back. So we have used 6 centimeters to dart the front and we have used 4 centimeters to dart the back. So what we have now is 6 plus 4, and that's giving us 10 centimeters. So now that we've gotten 10 centimeters out of the way, we had 12 minus 10, we're left with 2 centimeters, right? So what do we do to these 2 centimeters? We're going to use it for the side shaping. So 2 cm divided by 2 is going to give us 1 centimeter. So we're dividing it by 2, like for the front and for the back. So we're going to shape the front with 1 centimeter. Now this is for your blouse in a situation whereby you don't want a seamless effect on your blouse. What you just want is the exact waist measurement. You don't want it to be tight, you just leave it like this. But if you want it to be tight, I'm going to show you what to do after we're done with this. Okay, so for people who are plus size, most of them might not have enough to go inside. Some will even have to come outside for their darts. So this is the hemline, ½ inch below. So this is the hemline for this particular one, half inch below. So like I said, we're using this point if you don't want your waistline to be cinched. But if you want your waistline to be cinched, you're going to go inside further by half an inch. Just half an inch. Nothing fancy, nothing too much, just half an inch. So here and here, we go inside by half an inch and we go ahead to connect it, and we go ahead to connect it, and we go ahead to connect it, and this is coming out really beautifully. Do well to tag us on Facebook, Instagram at Maison Directs when you're done with this pattern and the sewing of the pattern itself. So at this point, we're left with our underbust shaping. So I told you that if you want this blouse to be well fitted, like you want to cinch the waistline even without having a boning channel or something, you can use this line. But if you don't want to cinch it, you go ahead to use this line, the original line that gives you the high waist measurement divided by 2. So this for cinching. So let's work with the one that we want to cinch. So now let's go ahead to now measure. Let's go ahead to now measure the underbust measurement. So we're going to start, let me call here C and let me call here D. So you're no longer measuring from here to the red line. So you're measuring from here to the choice line. That's where exactly you want your line to be. If you want the cinch one, use this. If you want the normal one that is just there, just go ahead to use this. So let me measure from C to point D. So here we have 8.75. Just like the high waist position, you're going to also measure the underbust measurement. So for the underbust, say we'll have underbust of 29, we divide by 2, we'll have 14.5. So here we'll have 8.75. Alright, so we'll go ahead to hold on to the 8.75 and continue at the back. Then we take it to this point. Now the dart is going to be sewn out, so you don't need the dart for anything. So we have 12.25. You hold on to the 12.25 that just before the dart position and continue after the dart position until we get our choice 14.5. Until we get the 14.5. So now you're going to measure the excess between here and here. So I have an excess of 3 centimeters. That excess of 3 centimeters now is not enough for the underbust shaping, but for now we're still going to use it. It will still help us to get a cinched effect around the bust area. So we're still going to replicate having 2 centimeters to this point and then 4 centimeters on this point, giving us a total of 6. Because for the underbust area, you cannot afford to use anything that is less than what you actually got on your high waist area. So you go ahead to connect it, and then with your curve, you have your French curve, so you can use any of the curves and blend it. If you don't have your curve, you can just go ahead and use your free hand and connect it. So I usually like to make my connections 1.5 inches below the bust position. So I hope this is clear to you. So 1.5 inches below the bust position, then go ahead to connect it. So depending on how deep you want the down to be, like if you want it to accommodate more breasts, let me show you. You come down more, okay? So if you want it to accommodate more breasts, you come down more. So here we have it. Do well subscribe to my channel. If you haven't, you can get a copy of Pattern Making for the Shapely African Woman or Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman. So you can see the stage we're at in our blouse making, and it's already looking good. So we're going to go ahead to mark our armhole dart. So like I told you, we can use this one or we can use this one. So let me use the second one. That is one that stops 1.5 inch below. So I'm going to now measure from this shoulder slant to the armhole. That's 7.25. So it's going to give us a total of 3 points. It's going to give us a total of 3.6 when we are finding the midpoint. Alright, so since we are looking for the midpoint now, we are going to use this to connect it. So we're going to use this now to connect it to this point. and we're going to extend it also using this French curve. So the French curve actually makes things a whole lot easier. So it's not just about marking it. If you mark it, you're just going to have those points, but we're going to need half an inch up, half an inch down, and we're going to connect it all the way. Okay, so we'll go ahead to connect it. We're still going to make an extension for this one down. For the one at the center, we don't really need that extension, but for the one down, we actually need an extension because usually when you connect it, there is usually a shortage. So you just go ahead to blend it. So you can see it looks straight, but it's not very straight. So I still use my armhole curve to get that particular shape. So by the time we close it up, usually it lands. Usually, by the time we close it up, we usually extend here by 0.75 inches and connect it back. We don't need this one. We don't need the extension on the midpoint, but we need the extension on the base. All right. So we'll just go ahead to connect this. I hope you can see it clearly, and I hope you can understand what we're working on at the moment. Okay, so now that we've gotten to this point, we've done the armhole dart, we've done the bust dart, and next thing we're going to do is that we are also going to do the waistline dart at the back. Okay, so now let's move over to the back and do that waistline dart because we don't want you to have like that grabbing point on your, we don't want you to have a grabbing point on your waistline at the center back. Remember, we've not added any zip allowance to this outfit, so we're going to go here from the high waistline. This is the actual high waistline. So now, depending on the person's bust, if the person has a bust of 45 and above, you're going to use 1 inch. If the person has a bust of 35 to 45, you are going to use 0.75 inches. If the person has a bust of less than 35 to 35, you're going to use 0.5, less than 0.5, 0.5. So this is what I'm talking about, the waistline dart that we use to shape the zipper area. We're just going to go up. So now this person has a bust line of 34, but we're going to shape the bust position. The bust measurement is 34, so that means it's less than 35. So we're going to shape it by going on this particular zip shaping line, not on the center back line. On the zip shaping line, you go up by half inch, then you go ahead to connect it with your metal rule. There's no curve along this point. Connect it with your metal rule. You still close up your dart later and blend it neatly. Okay, so you can see our connections, you can see it's looking good, so that we don't have that grabbing point at the back. You can see how it looks. Now we've actually not put our zip allowance at this point, so we're going to measure to put our zip allowance at this point. So now we're going to measure from this point to this point. We'll add our zip allowance of 1.5 inches. Contrary to what a lot of people think, we use 1.5 inches in case the person adds, and well, we turn our zipper with lining first before we start ironing, so we're just left with 1 inch zip allowance after everything. So if you want to do an inseam finishing, you can just add a zip allowance of ½ inch or 1 inch, depending on what you're going comfortable with working on. So I'm doing this, connect this way. So you still follow the shape of your zipper, and here and here, and here we have it. So you can see the shape of our zipper. It's coming out really nicely. And that's just about that. So now we're going to shape the sides of this blouse because we want to give it a really nice and classy look. So just go ahead to, let's say we can go by 1 inch, 1.5. Let's use the 1.5 method. So we'll go by 1.5 inches, and then we'll slant it all the way down and give it this really nice curve, connecting it to the hemline. So that's basically it for this one. So we're also going to channel the same energy to the front, since we went up on the sides of the back by 1.5 inches. In front, we're also going to go up by 1.5 inches from the hemline, and then bring it down all the way back to the hemline, and you can see that this blouse is looking professionally drafted and very neat, and even a total novice can totally understand what I've done so far. So now here's what we've done so far. Now that your zip shaping that you did that made you to come inside and take 0.75 inch from the blouse, you're going to pay for the zip shaping. Now paying is that you're going to add 0.75 inches all the way from the armhole. You are paying back. This is not your sewing allowance. You're paying back, because if you do not pay back, you can't wear this blouse. It's going to become too tight and you're not going to be able to wear it. So that is why we always recommend that you pay back before you start adding your actual sewing allowance that you use in stitching it up together. So if you've been watching this video up to this point, congratulations, you have a very high level of focus and you're going to achieve a whole lot with this. Okay, so now we've added that to the back, then we're going to go ahead to add the actual sewing allowance to the back area. So now for the sewing allowance, we like to use the sewing allowance of 2 inches for our blouse, because we don't always use the inseam method. We always turn with lining first. After turning with the lining, we now stitch it, so that in case the person has any adjustment, you add some weight, you lose some weight, it will be very easy to adjust. So please feel free to use whatever it is you use. We like to work with the inseam method. Okay, so this video is brought to you by Eric's Academy of Fashion, Enugu's best fashion academy. So if you'd like to learn pattern drafting and sewing professionally and come in physically at a physical fashion academy, we have hostel for persons who do not stay close by in Enugu. So you can see our back pattern looking very professional and very beautiful. So we've added our sewing allowance. Remember, paying for the zip shaping is not the same as the sewing allowance. And also we'll just go over to the front. So when we go over to the front now, we are still going to add our sewing allowance of 2 inches. We'll still come back to this, like we're still going to close up these darts later on. And okay, so we'll just close up the darts and blend it back. Okay, we'll blend it back. So we're going to add our 2 inch sewing allowance. The sewing allowance for the front is 2 inches. Sewing allowance for the front is 2 inches. Please remember, we're starting from the innermost line. That's the center point. Okay, so we're starting from the innermost line. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead to add our sewing allowance all through. So this from here, we'll add our sewing allowance. We'll add the sewing allowance of 2 inches. Connect it this way. Connect it this way. We're following it up based on the closure. Alright, so we're closing here up. So we're just going to still add 2 inches to this point, and we're going to connect it, and that's how it's going to be. This is having this funny shape because of this dart right here. So there's something we also do. We still go ahead to replicate the dart still on the bust position. So we just on the sewing allowance area, we replicate the dart. We don't want to slant it down, because if we slant it down, we'll end up taking more than 2 inches, and we don't want that. So we just go ahead to connect it this way, so that when we close it up, it turns out really nice and has a really nice shape. So we just go ahead to blend everything well. You can see it. You can see how nicely it's turning out. So for the neckline, any kind of neck shape you want to give it, you go ahead and give it the neck shape. So assuming I want to give it this lovely neck shape, I'll just go ahead and give it this neck shape. All right. So if I still want to give it another funny shape, any shape whatsoever you want to give it, just go ahead and give it a shape. Okay, so I still want to add another shape. So whatever it is you want to give it, you go ahead and give it the shape. So for this one now, I want to find the center. I want to find the center of the back shoulder so that I can have a shoulder cut. Now this is very optional. So if I want to have a shoulder cut, I'll just find the midpoint of this line. Let's say this should be like 2.3 or thereabouts. So just find the midpoint, then go ahead to connect it. When you connect it, it looks all good and nice. And yeah, that's basically it. So when you're going to cut, you're going to add sewing allowance of 0.5 here, 0.5 here, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and that's basically it. Then of course, when we're closing up this darts, this shifts up a little bit, so just blend back our darts point back. We're going to close up this dart though before we eventually cut, and yep, we're good to go. You can curve this here. Whatever shape you want to give it, go ahead and give it the shape. But this is the basic bodice pattern, and before we go into any other designs whatsoever, just know that this is the basic. So tomorrow we're going to transfer this to fabric. Do well to see this video, share it, like it, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever we post a new video. So as usual, if we're also going to cut out this area separately, we're going to mark out, we're going to add 0.5 inch sewing allowance. So this is the side front, this is the center front, and this is the side back, this is the center back, and of course we'll have our arrows going up, arrows going up, arrows going up. And you can also comment in the comment section what next tutorial you want us to have on this channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next tutorial video.